House of a Dragon hints at major Rhaenyra change from original book story. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Westeros Throne, your headquarters for sharp analysis, bold theories, and the occasional flaming hot dragon take. Today's episode dives straight into a wildfire-level revelation. House of the Dragon is hinting at a major shift in Rhaenyra Targaryen's story compared to the original book version. And this is not just a tiny detail or a casual adjustment. This is a tectonic narrative shift that could reshape the entire emotional core of the Dance of the Dragons. Before we begin tearing into this, go ahead and subscribe and click that notifications bell icon so you do not miss any future breakdowns. If the Seven are listening, you will not want to be late for what is coming. So let us get into the fire. The show is clearly building a version of Rhaenyra that differs from the conflicting, rumor-filled accounts in Fire and Blood. In George R.R. Martin's pseudo-history, Rhaenyra is presented through unreliable narrators who cannot agree on anything. In one retelling, she is a hero. In another, she is reckless. And in a third, she is practically a villain, depending on which petty lord or bias maester is doing the gossiping. The show's writers decided they are not playing that game. They want to show who Rhaenyra truly was, not filtered, not exaggerated, not twisted for scholarly drama. Just her. And right out the gate, that one artistic choice sets up massive changes. The show repositions Rhaenyra from a character defined by courtroom whispers into someone with agency, intelligence, and emotional grounding. She is not just a figure in a chronicle. She is a living person facing political pressure, family betrayal, grief, and the impossible expectations of a realm that believe a woman on the throne is more terrifying than dragons melting castles. One example that screams this shift is how the show handles Luke's death. In the book, Luke's fate varies based on which storyteller you listen to. Some turn it into an intentional act, some treat it as a rumor, and some do not take it seriously at all. The show ignores all of that and delivers a devastating, grounded version. Two children caught in the storm of a war neither fully understands, and dragons who react based on instinct rather than obedience. That moment is not just a plot twist, it is a seismic emotional blow. You see Rhaenyra's face collapse, her hope shatter, and her path change instantly. It is the kind of character moment that reshapes the narrative, and it sets the stage for the show to diverge hard from any interpretation that frames Rhaenyra as cruel or indifferent. Now the momentum picks up, because if Rhaenyra is being written as more emotionally aware, calculated, and compassionate than the historical text suggests, that affects every major decision she makes in the coming seasons. And there is one infamous event in particular in the book that has always been controversial, an event that, if portrayed exactly as rumored, would completely contradict the empathetic version of Rhaenyra the show is building. It seems very likely the adaptation will either soften it, reframe it, or hand responsibility to someone else. The showrunners want her downfall to feel tragic, not deserved. They want the audience on her side, not questioning her humanity. And honestly, it is the smarter narrative move. Today's audience expects nuance, emotional truth, and character depth, not caricatures or moral whiplash. A modern adaptation has to make the audience feel the tragedy, not just observe it. So the show is shaping Rhaenyra as someone fighting for stability and legacy, someone trying to prevent the realm from dissolving into fire. That makes her fall resonate far deeper than a simplistic portrayal ever could. Now, let us look at her relationship with Daemon. In the book, Daemon is portrayed with the classic, maybe dangerous, maybe charming, maybe both energy. A lot of historical accounts present Rhaenyra as following Daemon's lead, or at least sharing equal levels of ruthlessness. But the show disrupts that idea completely. Instead of being a united storm, there are two forces with opposing emotional structures. Rhaenyra is thoughtful, measured, and focused on long-term stability. Daemon is impulsive, emotionally unpredictable, and easily consumed by his frustrations. This contrast is intentional. It highlights that Rhaenyra's choices are not driven by reckless ambition, but by the pressures and vulnerabilities of her world. And that contrast is exactly why the show might dramatically alter certain book events. If her downfall is shaped not by corruption or cruelty, but by grief, external manipulation, and demons' volatility, then blame shifts. Perspective shifts. The tragedy becomes a tragedy of circumstance, not character. This also aligns with the show's theme of unreliable historians. Fire and Blood was always written as a puzzle of contradictions. The show is picking which version feels real and grounding it in emotional authenticity. Another clear clue the writers are leaning toward a reimagined Rhaenyra is the focus on her youth and her burden as heir. In the book, her entitlement is often exaggerated because the men writing the history are biased. But the show strips all of that away. Instead, it gives us a woman raised with the throne in sight, constantly told she will rule, yet constantly challenged by a world that wants her to fail before she even gets the crown. That is a far different position than the book's sometimes harsh portrayal. On screen, she becomes relatable, not because we all know what it is like to sit on the Iron Throne, but because we understand what it means to fight for something you were promised and then have that promise flipped upside down. That humanization is exactly why a major change is likely coming. When fans think of Rhaenyra's later actions in the book, many see a shift from protagonist to morally gray to outright ruthless. The show has shown zero interest in taking her down that path. Instead, it highlights how the constant tension, the burden of leadership, and the relentless loss of her children carve away pieces of her soul. This does not make her soft. It makes her tragic. And tragedy is the point. A historically slanted text can portray her as flawed. A television series gives her emotion and truth. The more the show invests in her humanity, the less believable some rumored historical accounts become. The show is essentially telling the audience, here is the real version, not the distorted archive created by lords with grudges and maesters with political agendas. Another big indicator is how the show frames the blacks versus the greens. While the book tries to stay neutral, though not a success. So what does this mean for the major shift hinted at? It means the show is preparing to alter at least one notorious event, an event many readers have debated for years. It could still happen, but the motivations, context, and emotional framing will likely be completely different. Instead of making Rhaenyra appear irrational or needlessly brutal, the series may position the moment as the result of manipulation, external pressure, or demon's influence. Or perhaps the show will make clear it was never her doing at all. Whatever direction they choose, the result will reinforce the narrative they are building. Rhaenyra is the emotional anchor of the story. She is the beating heart of the conflict. And the tragedy of the dance is not her cruelty. It is what the realm forces her to become. Thank you for watching.